The pervasiveness of dragon myths in the folk legends of many cultures is probably no accident. These insightful words were spoken by the atheistic astronomer Carl Sagan. As Sagan noted, stories of dragon encounters permeate the legends, lore, and histories of every major people group in the world. Ancient Chinese, Native American Indians, early Germanic tribes, South American Nazcans, Greeks, Dogon and Bambara tribes of Mali, Persians, Scandinavians, Babylonians, Ashanti of West Africa, Egyptians, Romans, peoples of ancient India, and many others. How can this be explained? Carl Sagan strained credulity by suggesting that our far distant evolutionary ancestors saw dinosaurs and somehow passed these frightful memories down from generation to generation over the millions of years. But rather than believing in a far-fetched scenario whereby a squirrel-like ancestor passed a vision of dinosaurs to its descendants by some unknown biological mechanism, we can look to the Bible to provide the straightforward truth as we explore the historical era of dragons and men. The Bible explains how God used Noah to save 2 of every kind of land creature that he had made, including the dinosaurs. Dinosaur kinds were probably represented aboard the ark as juveniles. Some of these families of great reptiles that came off of Noah's ark would have gone extinct in subsequent years due to the harsh climatic conditions, but others adapted or survived in remote tropical regions. As human civilization spread across the earth, men encountered these large reptiles and recorded their interactions. It became standard practice for ancient map makers to identify the unexplored regions at the periphery of their maps with the cryptic words, "Here be dragons." The word dragon appears 34 times in the authorized version of the Scriptures. Notice the words of the psalmist. "You shall tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion, and the dragon shall you trample under feet." From the context, it is clearly speaking about a real creature that it would be impressive and intimidating to step on. Jeremiah 51:34 tells how the king of Babylon has swallowed me up like a dragon, which brings to mind the way many carnivorous reptiles gulp their prey whole. Both dragons of the sea, Psalm 74:13, and field, Isaiah 43:20, are mentioned. The Bible even alludes to the vocalization of the dragon. In Micah 1:8, "I will make a wailing like the dragons." The fact that dragons were powerful, frightening creatures is demonstrated by the book of Revelation likening Satan himself to a great red dragon. Revelation 12:9. World Book Encyclopedia states, "The dragons of legend are strangely like actual creatures that have lived in the past. They are much like the great reptiles which existed long before man is supposed to have appeared on the earth. Dragons were generally evil and destructive. Every country had them in its mythology. The truth is that the fathers of modern paleontology used the terms dinosaur and dragon interchangeably for quite some time. Sir Richard Owen coined the term dinosaur in 1842. Before that, all scientists called the great reptiles dragons. Doubtless, some of the dragon stories that have been handed down over the generations have been exaggerated somewhat, but that does not mean they had no original basis in fact. Dinosaur skeletons have even been found that display some of the same peculiar dragon features that were once thought to be fanciful. In 2004, a fascinating dinosaur skull was discovered in South Dakota. Because of its dragon-like head, horns, and teeth, the new species was dubbed Dracorex hogwartsia. The dinosaur's skull mixes spiky horns, bumps, and a long muzzle. As you peruse the exhibit hall at Genesis Park, you will see some clear dinosaurian depictions made by ancient artists. Dinosaur iconography from painting, carvings, tapestry work, figurines, and simple etchings attest to the fact that men in antiquity encountered living dinosaurs. But there are also many credible written reports that come down to us from sober historians, accounts of dragons and men. Dragon histories go back as far as the ancient Gilgamesh epic, a Sumerian story written about 2000 BC. After Alexander the Great invaded India, he brought back reports of seeing a great hissing dragon living in a cave. Later Greek rulers supposedly captured dragons in Ethiopia and brought them back alive. The Chinese have the oldest intact civilization. Their stories of dragons and some of their ornamental pictures of dragons are remarkably like dinosaurs. Marco Polo wrote of his travels to the province of Karajan and reported on huge serpents, which at the forepart have 2 short legs, each with 3 claws, and large jaws. Books even tell of Chinese families raising dragons to use their blood for medicines and highly prizing their eggs. It is interesting that the 12 signs of the Chinese zodiac are all animals, 11 of which are still seen today. But is the 12th, the dragon, merely a legend, or is it based on a real animal, the dinosaur? It doesn't seem logical that the ancient Chinese, when constructing their zodiac, would include one mythical animal with 11 real animals. The interpretation of dinosaurs as dragons goes back more than 2,000 years in Chinese culture. They were regarded as sacred, as a symbol of power. China's oldest known dragon depiction is a curious discovery found at the ancient Jishuipo cemetery ruins along the Yellow River in Henan province. There, 3 artistic dragons, along with tigers and other animals, composed entirely of white shells, were placed alongside human remains. The Jishuipo site dates back several thousand years, yet the dragons shown are surprisingly like modern renditions. This shows the dragon concept did not slowly develop through Chinese history from a simplistic, primitive, mythological form. This is evidence that they were modeled after living creatures.